Hey guys, how's it going? It's Calvin Rab. So the other day I was at the grocery store just getting a few things that I needed, and I saw so many people with a mountain of stuff in their cart. Probably almost $500 worth of stuff. It was insane. And they were all kind of prepping for quarantined and lockdowns and this whole situation that's at large. And it really got me thinking, what should you have? Because that seems a little overboard. There's no way you need all that. So I went, and after that I did a little bit of research because I wanted to make sure that my family and I are all in good situations and we have enough stuff. So I wanted to figure out, what did the experts say? What should you have? And I then wanted to just kind of make a quick little video about my findings and what I sort of see as what you should have stocked up for this whole coronavirus situation, because I understand that a lot of people are not in the financial situation that they can get everything that they may want. So I just kind of want to go over what you should have and what you may need should this country go on, maybe a stricter lockdown, or maybe not even this country specifically, but kind of the world at large, no matter where you live. I don't think this is specifically pertaining to the United States. But let's get into it. This is going to be a little bit, I'm going to cover different topics. I'm going to go over different foods that you should have, how long these foods should be able to last. I'm going to go over household products and medical products and just a couple other miscellaneous things and different things like that. I'm going to leave timestamps in the comments. So if you go to the comments, you'll see I have a pinned comment that goes over all the different things I talk about along with the timestamp. So if you just want to quickly go to that, you can click on the time and it will bring you to the point in the video that is most helpful for you. So feel free to go through there as well if you don't want to watch all this through. I understand that your time is very valuable. So let's get into it. Let's start going over different things that you should have when it comes to this whole coronavirus situation. And if you're new here, my name's Calvin Rab. I make videos all about personal finance and jobs and different things like that. So if you're interested in anything like that, I would love it if you would subscribe. All right, so let's kick it off with one of the most important ones, and that is food. When it comes to food, what should you have? How much should you have? How many days should it be able to last, and anything like that? So from what I read, the research that I did, you should have food that can go 14 days. You should be able to last 14 days on lockdown. And kind of the rationale behind that was the coronavirus has an incubation period of 14 days. And an incubation period, all that is the time in which it takes from being exposed to this virus to when you show symptoms. And 14 days is that span. There are shorter times that you have seen. I think 14 is more on the longer run. I've seen different research that has said, oh, it takes 5 days and a week and different things like that. But 14 days is, from the research that I did, how far you should have to prepare for food. So what should you have? Well, when it comes to this, and it's probably pretty self-explanatory, but you should have non-perishable goods. So goods that will not be going bad anytime soon and can last a long time. So the way you can kind of plan on going about this is how I kind of did it, and how my family and I sort of prepared was, we started with the base. What is going to be the base of the meal? And this was the non-perishable object. So we got our pastas, we got some rice, and I believe we got some quinoa and different things like that. That plays the base of the meal. And then we went and looked for the protein. And essentially the way we prepared the protein was, we got a lot of meat that we then just froze. Should the grocery stores close or anything like that, we kind of stocked up on meats. And if you do buy them in bulk, it isn't the most expensive thing in the world. And you can find different grocery stores have different cheaper options. So we got different meats there, and we got a lot of pork, a lot of chicken, and different things like that. And there are also vegetarian options as well. I used to be vegetarian for a little while, and you can of course get chickpeas and really everything in the vegetarian aisle. You can freeze a lot of the different tofu-based and plant-based products and everything like that. So you can still do the same thing, running on this same logic of finding that base along with the protein on top of it. So that's kind of how we did it. And then you're also going to want to get, when it comes to non-perishables, you're probably thinking of canned foods, and you can do that as well. You're going to want to get a lot of vegetables. You're going to want to have a lot of canned veggies, maybe some canned corn, some canned peas and different things like that, that you can throw on the sides of the meal in order to get a few more vitamins and different things like that for you. And then when it comes to canned goods, you may also want to get different fruits and stuff, and you don't have to go overboard here. I know it seems like I'm talking about a lot of different stuff, and I understand that that can seem quite expensive, but if you do buy this stuff in bulk, it is cheaper. You know, buy the meat in bulk, and you can buy rice, of course, buy the bag. That's what we did. We have now sitting in our kitchen a bag of rice. It's kind of funny. We have that, and you also can get the chicken as well, and the canned foods are usually not that expensive, and just find some stuff that you may be interested in. We also got a few canned fruits, so we can get things like vitamin C and different things like that, and this was just all stuff to last a while. So we got all that products, and 14 days was the time period that I saw that was recommended. So now I want to talk about liquid, and when it comes to liquids, the most common thing is going to be just bottled water, and you are going to want to have a good amount of that on hand in case of an emergency you need bottled water. It is a good thing to have. We always try to have some bottled water just in case something happens where we do need it, and I think it's usually a good thing to have on hand. Right now we're not using it. My family and I are still using our Hydro Flasks, and just because right now it isn't an emergency that we would need bottled water, and of course it keeps it colder and it is better for the environment than using the plastic bottles. So, but it is important to prepare for it. So as far as liquids go, you can get those, but then also if you're interested in any other drinks, you may want to get some Gatorade or anything like that just for electrolytes in case someone does get sick, not even necessarily the coronavirus, but in case someone does get the flu or something like that, you may want to have some electrolytes on hand, and you can get that through Gatorade, and just pick out any of your preferences when it comes to that. My favorite being the red Gatorade. So I don't know why I added that, but just get any Gatorade in case you want that. Of course, that isn't a necessity, although I would recommend having some bottled water on hand, but the Gatorade is not a necessity. All right, so household supplies, these can run on that same 14-day period that I was talking about that you should be prepared for. Although usually when it comes to a lot of these household supplies that I want to talk about, you usually would buy these in bulk. You usually wouldn't buy something like laundry detergent for a week. No, you buy it for even months at a time. My detergent usually will last me. But when I'm talking about household supplies, I am talking about that washing detergent and any other soaps you may need, of course toilet paper, and really just any other household products that you use on the regular that you will need if in case there is a quarantine that you may need for an extended period of time. And I understand that a lot of what I just talked about, some of that is hard to find. If you go to the stores, it is very hard to get toilet paper, very hard to get soap. At least in my area, I wasn't able to find any soap or hand sanitizer or anything else like cleaning products or anything like that. However, I understand that. I made a whole video about how to find toilet paper and how to buy these other necessary items that are out there. You can check that video out, and hopefully that will lead you to a place where you can find these products. But it is important to think about these normal housing supplies that you may need come this quarantine. So a lot of what I just mentioned were necessary products, and I now want to flip the script a little bit and just say that it is important to remember to get things that are fun and maybe enjoyable. So these would be things like games, because there are a lot of people that are quarantined for a while, and if you are someone that is usually a very busy person, I consider myself a very busy person, I'm always doing something, and all of a sudden you're cooped up at home, maybe you find yourself kind of bored and just not too sure what to do, and especially if you have kids or anything like that that has to now be at home most of the day, then you may want to get games or anything like that just to kind of help the time pass a little bit, and it can be a fun bonding experience for you and your family. And when it comes to things that are enjoyable, it's not always games. I also recommend getting things that you really, really like to eat as well. You know, don't make this a miserable experience. You don't want to have to go to the kitchen and know you're going to eat something that you don't enjoy. Try to get things that you enjoy eating to make this whole quarantine situation just a little bit better on you. So, you know, try to treat yourself a little bit. So for me, I bought one of my favorite things out there is, I'm going to go a little bit of a tangent out there, but one of the things that I think is the most delicious thing in the world, if you've ever seen the Trader Joe's dark chocolate, I think it's 72% dark chocolate. It comes in this little orangish red casing. It is fantastic. If you're into dark chocolate at all, it is amazing. It's kind of my guilty pleasure when it comes to food. All right, so heading back on track here. And I just recommend getting enjoyable games and different things like that for the family. So now let's get back to more necessity items that you should get. So the next thing I want to talk about are medical related supplies. If you have any prescription drugs of any sort, you should have a good stash that can last you a while. So I was trying to figure out if I could figure out the best kind of time period of prescription drugs that you should have on hand. I saw anything ranging from 14 days to a month. Personally, in situations like this, I like to run a little bit more conservatively, and I think you should have a little bit more than 2 weeks because you just never know what's going to happen. And if that is an opportunity for you that either both your finances and just kind of situation with the prescription drugs allow you to get a good amount stretching out far into the kind of distant time period, then I recommend doing that. And it's just good to have that on hand. And not everything needs to be prescription based either. You know, when I was first talking to my dad about different things that we may need, you know, he asked if I may need anything like contact solution and just little things that you may not think that you may need because it may not be an obvious prescription. You have to have this every day, but just think of little kind of medical related things that you may need. Should the grocery stores not be open all the time, that they'd be a little tough to get. And it's important to kind of get that and make sure you have enough. And then another thing that I think everyone should have, whether the coronavirus situation were going on or not, is just an emergency kit or some just emergency preparedness kit of some sort, first aid kit, just something that can deal with small little injuries. You know, suppose someone does get sick with the flu or something like that, you're going to want to have different things for them. And if just someone gets hurt, you're going to want to have band-aids and different things like that. This is just a basic emergency kit that you should usually have some type in your house somewhere. So I recommend checking that out. And there's a lot of ones online that you can get are affordable that come fully stocked with everything that you may need, wraps and different things like that. So just go online. There's a lot of different opportunities there. And that's where, at least the apartment that I live in with a lot of my college roommates, we have an emergency kit there for anyone to just cut themselves or anything. And knowing me, I'm usually the injury prone one in the apartment. So usually I'm the one being fixed up by that first aid kit. But again, moving off into a tangent there. So a few quick other things that I wanted to mention that I didn't really see where they fit under a specific category, but yet they are important when it comes to preparing and just making sure you have everything you need to last any kind of a lockdown or anything like that. And that is make sure your car has gas or is fully charged if you do have an electric car. But just make sure you do have enough gas in your car that can last you a while. You know, if you are on half a tank, less than that, you may want to consider filling that up just to make sure you have a full tank of gas, because in any emergency situation, it's always a good idea to have gas in your car. And then another thing is that I read was you're going to make sure you have a little bit of cash on hand. So I am by no means meaning you should go and liquidate your entire account. No, please do not do that. But just in any emergency situation, it's always a good idea to have some cash on hand. And I'm someone who doesn't really like to carry cash with me. I feel it's much safer when it's in my bank account, and I don't really want to be dealing with that much cash. But it is important to have a little bit in kind of these crazy situations when there's a lot of unpredictableness happening. You're not sure what's going to happen. Don't worry about your money going away or anything like that. Know that when your money's in a bank account, it is FDIC insured, and just make sure it is. You know, make sure that your bank is federally insured. They will have disclaimers everywhere. You can also look it up to make sure your bank is, but you will, I guess that's a whole nother note, but make sure your bank is federally insured so that should anything happen either during a recession, you are covered. You know, this was an issue that a lot of people were talking about when they were worried about during the whole mortgage kind of banking crisis in 2008. They were worried about what was going to happen to their money, and everyone that had accounts at companies that were falling, but yet they were insured, they could rest assured that they would get their money. But that again is a little bit of a tangent, but just make sure you have some cash on hand. And then the last thing you should have is a plan. And specifically here I'm talking about the coronavirus situation, but your family should have a plan for any emergency situation, whether it be earthquake, a fire, tornado, or anything else that may be an emergency in your local area or anything else like that. It's important to prepare for these unexpected and oftentimes tragic situations. But when it comes to coronavirus, it is important to kind of discuss with the family, what's gonna happen if someone does get it? What should we do? If someone in the house gets coronavirus, how should we deal with it? How should we go about with it? This is something that I talked to my dad for a little bit about last night, just in case, it is important to prepare. Like, what if someone in my family gets it? What would we do? And we talked about that for a little bit. So just being prepared for these worst case scenarios. It doesn't even have to be someone in your family. What if someone in your neighborhood, someone really close to you in close living quarters gets it? It's important to just have these conversations and plans in place so that should anything unexpected happen, you at least have some place to go with and everyone is not frantically trying to figure out a plan. And it's just important to always have a plan. So then a few other things I want to say as I'm closing this out is important when it comes to food to make sure that you do eat the food that is going to expire kind of the soonest, the quickest. This is kind of common knowledge, but it is important to understand that and know when products are going to expire so you can know what you may need. And then other than that, to kind of close it out, just make sure you're doing everything else. I would recommend making sure you're working out, and I understand that, of course, gyms are closed, but you can still get outside, get a little bit of exercise. One thing that I have been doing, at least in my garage, is I go on YouTube and I just type in 7-minute workout, and there's a bunch of different high-intensity 7-minute workouts, and I try to do a few of those, and boy, you will feel it after. It's 7 minutes that are fairly intense. Usually it's a 5-second break or so, and it's push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks, lifting weights, and anything like that. And my family also bought a little just kind of gym set that we can get as well, just to stay in shape, because in these times you want to make sure your immune system's just at full capacity. So you want to make sure you're working out, staying healthy, eating well, and different things like that, and just making sure that everything's going to be all right there. And then another thing is just make sure you stay up to date on the virus. But I wouldn't recommend incessantly reading everything you possibly can, because if you do read a bunch, it can get a little scary. So you do just want to make sure, or not so much scary, but more overwhelming. And that's all that's in the news right now is just coronavirus, coronavirus, coronavirus. So just make sure you are keeping up to date, but you don't have to know absolutely everything. But it is important to keep up to date with it, what's happening. I also recommend paying attention to the economy, because this is maybe a bad word, but it's very fascinating what's going on right now. I am an economics student and I find it very interesting what's going on right now. I understand, of course, the implications are quite scary, but it is quite the time to be following economics, because every day there's something happening and there are deals and plans and trillions of dollars being moved around trying to figure out how to deal with the unemployment. As you can see, this is something that I'm really interested in, and I think it's something that you should look out as well if you're interested in that as well. But that will wrap it up. I hope that was helpful in somewhat trying to pin down what you should get. That way you don't go to the store and feel you have to spend money on buying absolutely everything. However, I am not an expert on this, and I haven't really gone through a situation like this before. I think it's very rare that anyone's really in this type of situation. So if you have any other recommendations, maybe you know more about this than I do, or you just have different thought process, let me know your thoughts on this. Maybe there's something that I forgot that you should have in case of an emergency, or you should be preparing for this virus. I'd really appreciate if you would let me know down there, and you'd also be helping out the different people that are coming to this video to try and see what they should have to prepare. So I'd really appreciate if you would do that. But that will wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. And if you're new here, I make videos all about personal finance and jobs and economics. Of course, the time we live in today, I felt the need to make a few videos about coronavirus. So these are a little bit different than kind of the ordinary videos that I would make. But if you go on my channel, you'll be able to see the personal finance videos and different things like that. So if that interests you all, I would love it if you would subscribe. But other than that, if you found this video helpful, I would love it if you would hit that little like button. And if you feel like you know anyone that should watch this video, I'd really appreciate it if you would share it with them as well. So that will wrap it up. Thank you so much. And despite the crazy times, I hope you're doing well. We are all in this together, and I may not know you, but I'm rooting for you, and I'm hoping that just everyone's gonna do well. So thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. And as always, my name is Calvin Rabb, and I'll see you soon. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Congratulations. So I'm gonna move to the corner of your screen here. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, you are going to see my most recent video. And if you look in the lower left-hand corner, you're going to see a video that YouTube and I each think that you would like. And if you haven't yet, you can hit my face right here and subscribe. As always, my name is Calvin Rabb, and I'll see you soon.